All right, we are live. This is, I can't believe it's August. And it's funny how it's like the week after the Tesla takeover. That's been the event that I personally have been, spending so much time on. And it's one of those things that's super exciting, but also too, you're happy when it's over for good reasons, obviously. And last week, obviously, we missed because we were all myself and Kelvin and the team. We were all on the field. And so it was just one of those things where it just made sense to skip. So sorry about that, but thanks for coming back. We want this to be a place where you can come each week and get updated on your news. We're the ones who do that work for you and give it back to you. And we are all passionate about Tesla and what they're doing as a company and what they're even doing as a community. At least, we all bring different things to the table. So thank you again for coming back. I wanted to take some time to really just talk about the magical event this past weekend. Whether you were there or whether you were whether you were on the planning team or actually got to experience it firsthand. There's a couple of videos that I just wanted to share. So I'm gonna do this. Let's bring this up here. All right. So the quick context is, if you weren't there, our keynote speaker was Musk. And the one thing, actually, I was talking with Jeff, Joe, and Amy. For May to come to a Tesla event is pretty rare. I'll put it that way. She doesn't speak, because she's got an amazing career in supermodeling. She's a doctor of dietetics, best selling author for A Woman Makes a Plan. And so really her focus isn't Tesla, even though, her son and her other kids have other amazing careers. But she shared in the interview that she had to get Elon's approval. And again, so you have this situation where she's not really outspoken about Tesla and Elon. And number two, she asked Elon to come. And so it just shows the level of trust and how special it was for her to make an appearance. And so in this video, I'm gonna share here it's at the end of the event. It's me, Kelvin, and Musk. We're in the front, and you see hundreds and hundreds of fans just hanging out at the end. And so we're all under this tent. There's people outside of the tent, but as they were screaming, you really just got the chills of how big this thing and really how important this event is to the Tesla community. So let me go ahead and play it. What's up? It's Kelvin G, John, and the fabulous Musk, and we are at the Tesla Takeover 2023. Let's hear it from everybody. All right. And then I'm just going to hit on these other videos just to show the scale. So shout out to Billy Kyle. He came all the way from Philly, and he specializes in in lapses, time lapses. And so this was just another one.
This one is one of my favorites.
Yep, and I was just getting chills watching that. And then this is the money shot, which is just everybody. And obviously, I think people were like, "Hey, you're only showing 40 Teslas and a bunch of people." So, but it's this is the other side with the customized Teslas, the super modified. And at this point, people had even kind of started leaving, but. Here again, you can just see the amount of people. We had about 2,000. Not everyone is in here. Some of them actually stayed inside the tent because they didn't want to come out. But here's just kind of this is the Tesla takeover. Yeah, so I think here, let's just go back to this. Yeah, so that was four videos, and I think we could have. I think that's probably something I could have maybe done a little bit better on, is bringing a little bit more material this week. But I really wanted to, I know, Amy, you were able to attend, but I thought, maybe we could just spend a couple of minutes and just talk about, our thoughts, what we enjoyed the most, and, potentially even big takeaways. Yourself, obviously, you were a speaker on Tesla's projections for the next 3, 5, and 10 years. But yeah, I would love to get your perspective on what you thought.
Well, first off, can we start with talking about how unbelievably good of a speaker May Musk is? That speech that she did was absolutely incredible. I think that I you always knew that who Elon Musk and the other kids became was in large part due to her. But to be able to see her up on the stage, she has this resilience in her personality where she just seems to bounce back to positive, to what am I going to do next. So like the name of a book, like A Woman Makes a Plan, it resonates for me in an entirely different way after watching her speak, because she just approaches everything in her life with humor. She had us just rolling. I mean, almost every single answer to every question, it was, she's just brilliant and articulate, but she would say things and look at life and just this wonderful, positive, funny perspective that was absolutely incredible. And I can't believe, John, that you were able to pull her in for that. That was one of, kind of probably for me, a once in a lifetime experience to be able to be that close to someone who's very inspirational like that. It was very moving.
Yeah.
Like her speech was incredibly, incredibly moving. And then the entire event, I don't know if people realize the scope and the scale of it. Like there's food trucks, that dogs are allowed. There's this awesome big tent with tables underneath it. The weather is absolutely perfect. You like look at what the temperature is on a weather chart and you assume that, oh, that's gonna be hot, but you get this really cool ocean breeze coming in, and like it has I've been to Coachella multiple times. It has a bit of a Coachella vibe to it. I mean, like just all these ecstatic, happy people. Everyone is just like, everyone you meet, you have like a great conversation. There's like very few times in our modern society where people aren't just looking at their phones. And unless someone was taking photos, everybody's phone was in their pocket. Everyone was just interacting with the people around them. And the production quality of the event, like people are like, there's actually real toilets that flush. I mean, like every single detail was insane. It was so well done. And the people in the Tesla community that showed up, it's such a diverse group of people. That's like one of the coolest things about this community is the way, and we're all coming at it from different sides. You have the car clubs, I'm just purely an investor at this point. I don't have a Tesla yet. I hope to get one soon, but I just don't drive a whole lot. I'm trying to get solar panels, but they've canceled my order twice. So I just keep trying. It's an incredible experience. And like, kudos to everyone that put it on, Joe, John, the SoCal club as well. It just blew my mind. I didn't know what to expect, but I don't think anyone expected what we saw.
Yeah, and I think it was one of those things too. What made it even more intimate, specifically the May Musk one, especially speaking in the Tesla community, was not only obviously getting approval from Elon himself, but really for her to just for her to be in front of people. You're not technically, like, we can't share the full interview. And most interviews you see with her, you never see the full interview. It's just small clips here and there. And so for you to be live talking with her and seeing what she's, seeing how she's answering questions, like that was really special. And that's the, one of the big takeaways. But I also too really loved the light show. The light show was truly epic. But I'm gonna upload another video. And sorry, we're hitting this. I don't know if this is. This is another hyperlapse. And you can just see, again, the scale of the parking all the way in the back to the super modified, customized Teslas, the bathrooms, the exhibitors, the tent where everyone spoke. And so it just, kind of helps put things in perspective of like, how big was the event. And, but yeah, I think, for me personally, it was truly just inspiring to see just the community come together, right? For me personally, I entered into probably the community for first buying the car. It just kind of changed how I drove, a huge aspect of my life, which was like 10 to 12 hours a week on the road, which is, a huge portion of your life that you're giving to traffic. And so then that led me into the investing. That led me, obviously, not into investing first. I actually started the club first before I had actually even bought any stock. And then eventually started, slowly investing cash here and there back in 2018, 2019. But, it was a very special event. And, I personally am shocked at seeing really, what it's become. This is just something that you start to realize it's bigger than yourself. And, so I'm personally just really, really just grateful for the turnout. I'm thankful for the community, just sharing their time and really their weekend with us, right? That's ultimately what comes down what it comes down to. So I'm multitasking here, trying to see if I can get this light show, which I think I'll be able to get. I think we don't have to watch this for the whole time, and we'll end with this, but specifically this light show. And again, thank you to the audience for watching this week. Again, this was such a magical event, so I thought it would be just cool to share. But this light show had 172 Teslas with USB sticks. And then 65 of them were lined up in the Cybertruck design. And then we actually had, about 110 of them just lined up on the side. So let's see.
It's the final countdown. It's the final countdown. It's the final countdown. It's the final countdown. It's the final countdown.
Yeah, wait for it. There's a little bit more that I want you to see.
What the hell was that?
Tesla Takeover.
They've gone to plaid!
This is where it becomes magical, guys. Where you see all these cars. 172.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be.
All right. So one thing I wanted to do is just give a quick shout out to the owners of Austria Am I frozen?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well.
Oh no, wait. Yeah, you're still frozen.
Okay. Let me remove myself real quick. And then here, let me just. That's what happens when you, I guess, deal with technical issues sometimes. Here, I'll be right back.
Can we talk about how awesome that light show was?
That was pretty awesome.
How cool to have the Cybertruck like that. What did you think, Jeff and Joe?
Oh, Jeff's on mute. I'll answer for him. What he meant to say was, no, go ahead, Jeff.
You were John a couple weeks ago, and now you're guilty.
Oh, he's still on mute. Yeah. Jeff, you're still on mute.
He'll have to drop down and come back too.
So it's going to be me and Amy this week, and we have a lot to talk about. The live show was amazing, you guys.
I think we can do it on our own.
We'll be just fine.
They'll be really missed.
No, but that was truly incredible. Even the way they had the tires spinning with the lights, like they really thought through every detail. It was really incredible. Really awesome.
Yeah. So it looks like we'll have to wait for Jeff, but oh, he's back. All right. So who wanted to have technical difficulties this morning? Well, now that is accomplished. But yeah, the Tesla owners of Austria, huge shout out to them. They claim all the way from Austria. We even had Simon from the UK. He brought 400 USB sticks in case something, more people were going to show up. And then we had Darren and Rachel from Singapore come. So that's why it's like, you were watching that video and you start to see like, okay, this is magical. This is really, not only magical, but it's just bigger than yourself, right? It's no longer about one person or even a club. It's just like, this is about like bringing people together from, various aspects, from investing, from just, loving the car, doing it for environmental reasons, whatever your story is, come to Tesla. That's ultimately what this became about. So, any final thoughts? But otherwise we can just jump into the regular scheduled programming.
I have a final thought because like you're my guys. Like we do this podcast like every week, but I was so insanely proud of both of you, Joe and John, when I saw that event. And Joe, your merch, I didn't get to the tent before like it was sold out. It was fire. Like it flew out of there. I'm just so proud of you. Like it blew my mind what you guys put on.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, just to add to Amy's point. I mean, I watched from afar. I watched a lot of the different interviews, and really, I really got the sense of community, and I got the sense of kind of breadth of the event. And I went even shopping on some of the merch stores. So there was just a lot going on, and as the Tesla community grows, I think this grows with it. And coming from someone who bought their first Tesla in 2013 in the Midwest, when really there was not many people around me with a Tesla, it's nice to actually see a community of people get together, kind of talk about the product, talk about the movement, and really kind of celebrate it. So I hats off to you both. I think you and the whole team, Kelvin, and everybody that worked on the whole thing together. I think you all did an amazing job. I think Amy, you did an amazing job on the speaking panel with all with all the various guests. Too lengthy to name, but I love listening to all the different panels. It was great. Just great job overall. Just watching from afar, it was really well done.
Yeah. Go, Joe.
Yeah, the production intel was so amazing, but I really wanted to take a broader view and appreciate all of the non-Teslas that came through, and because we try to make this a inclusive event, you know what I mean? Like just make it about the mission as well as it is about the community, right? So and that community has expanded. Like there's so many Tesla owners that got Lucids, that bought Mach-E's, that bought F-150s, but still love Teslas. And you know what I mean? They have 2 in their garage or 3 or whatever, but these are multi-EV homes and multi-EV people, and they just love the mission. And so I just really wanted to appreciate that fact. And I mean, everybody knows I had personal issues. I couldn't make it this year, but wow, man, really a great production. And I really appreciate the amount of effort that went into it. I know Kelvin worked his butt off. I know he's probably asleep in a coma right now, but really, really great job, everyone.
I have one more comment. Next year, we should do a Tesla Beat podcast from our Tesla Beat from the stage at the event. I think so. But I also want to do a shout out to the guys, to the people who filled in for you people, because you didn't do it with me. So Farzad, Alexandra, and Brian that I spoke with, they were amazing, and it was really, really fun to do if I didn't have you guys.
Yeah, if we can all commit to being there, it's going to happen the same weekend next year. So I will make sure. Few things I can do, is running the schedule a little bit, but yeah, I can make sure we get like 20 to 30 minutes up on stage, and we can even come with updates, a deck, whatever we want to do, or just talk about whatever we want. But yeah, I know we can make that happen. So yeah, I know we talked a little bit about it this year, but there's scheduling conflicts and things like that happening. But it's going to be pretty much around the same time every year. So we'll see. Again, I know life happens. Obviously, number two is that we all have personal family and things like that, celebrations going on. So if not, we'll see. But yeah, I can definitely make sure that we make that happen if we can get together. The one other thing I just wanted to say is Joe's absolute right. We make this event as inclusive as possible. Shout out to Ian from Tesla to Lucid. He brought, he has an incredible Tesla story, like all the way back from the Roadster all the way to here, meeting all of the, like the JBs, Elon's, like all of those guys, back in the early days. So, we had pretty much, Rivian from San Jose came out. So shout out to them for bringing their R1S. We had Taycan, Ford Lightning, and again, original Roadsters and a couple of other cars. So, but yeah, it was just, the whole thing was just special to be a part of. And it was special for me to just watch everyone enjoy it. That's what it was all about for me. And so, that's why we do this, is to, really help the community, bring the community together. And so that's what it's about. And when that doesn't happen, it's really sad. So I think the event really showed, I think, a lot of the good of what the community is and can be. And so I was just so thankful that for all of the people that truly enjoyed it. So thank you. All right, so let's get into it. Otherwise, we could spend the whole podcast literally on that. And okay, so I always throw up this disclaimer. The four people on this call, we are not, watching the stock on a daily basis. We've been, we're long time investors. And so, I think, it's been a little bit soft this month. I know it hit highs of like 295, something like that. But it's been, hovering around 250, 260, I think the past several days, if not weeks, but still a huge rally over the past 6 months. And I think it's still like 131% year to date or something, well north, 137% year to date, if you look at it from that perspective. But let's get into it. So this I just added like really fast. So shout out to Joe T for this photo. I'm giving a verbal credit here. But shout out to Joe T. He is known for drone flying over Giga Austin. And this is the Cybertruck charging. Have you ever seen a Cybertruck charging? I haven't. But this will put it into perspective. Obviously, it takes up more space, but still fits within it. I mean, it's pretty much at the top. But, I thought this was a good visualization of like what charging is going to look like in the upcoming year, in the next couple months. So couldn't be more excited about that. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just for a lot of people that are concerned about what the Cybertruck size is, it's really nice to see this shot of it lined up against the other cars. And this is where you start to see them talking about on the earnings call, I think it was the earnings call, where they said how much attention that they had put into like every millimeter on it and trying to get it to fit within a standard garage, at least in the United States, where it's going to be initially released. It's really a cool perspective. I'm glad you threw this in.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things is for some odd reason, people thought the Cybertruck was going to be super wide and wasn't going to be able to fit in any parking spaces, and they would have to make brand new superchargers for like the Cybertruck. But it's really the size of a truck, you know what I mean? Like, and like Amy said, they've went through great lengths to keep as much space inside and outside without the footprint being like gargantuan, like a freaking Hummer EV. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's what people expected. I think people really thought it was gonna like be like a Hummer EV-esque type vehicle, and it doesn't weigh 9,000 pounds. It's not 20 feet wide or anything like that. So they did a really good job. It looks amazing. I can't wait to start getting bored by seeing these everywhere.
What I'm most excited about is how people are going to customize it, especially once this thing starts going off-roading. And more importantly, you know, is this stuff going to even like, you know, are they thinking about like Baja 1000, just getting this thing like just in the dirt and, you know, in racing. But all right. So a lot, I feel like, happened with Giga India this past week. Teslarati reported that they're renting about, I think, a 6,000 square foot office in Pune, India. And then also too, it looks like, shout out to Sawyer, India's Commerce Minister Gayol met senior U.S. Tesla executives last week in a closed-door meeting to discuss the car maker's plans to establish a manufacturing plant in the country. So this is happening. I mean, the fact that they're renting space now, they're obviously even having more discussions. But feel free to chime in. What does this mean? What are your thoughts on it? And where is Tesla Giga India headed?
I know Jeff really has some comments on this.
Yeah, I can start. It's exciting. First off, I mean, macroscopically, if you just take the macro view, China and India are in dispute. They have border disputes happening, trade disputes happening. You know, they're economically, you know, at odds. And if you take all that in, and you understand China is basically right now running away with the EV race. If you look at it on a global scale, the amount of EVs produced in that country versus others, you know, and India can't have that happen. I mean, EVs are the future, and you know, they can't allow it to happen. So what happened in the last actually 2 weeks is very interesting, because BYD came in actually with a joint venture offer into India and said, look, we're going to work with one of your manufacturing partners on assembly and work with your entire supply chain. And, you know, we're the number 2 EV manufacturer in the world. And we'd love to set up manufacturing here in India and serve the Indian population and maybe potentially even export. And that was rejected. So that happened really at the same time as you see now the Indian government pulling Tesla in. I think it's really important to kind of look at these things together as they're happening. And what India wants, India understands that Tesla has the edge in innovation. They've basically created much of this industry, and they want to work with the best. And also, they don't have the border disputes, the trade disputes. That they're on a friendly basis with the United States. So this is a kind of a really good situation that's happening, and Tesla is in the driver's seat, and no pun intended, in this situation. And even just if you compare Tesla themselves, 2 years ago, when this probably started 2 or 3 years ago, to now, they're in a much better position than they were even 2 or 3 years ago in terms of leverage in this conversation. So I think Tesla is going to make a very good deal for themselves, and also just for advancing electrification as quickly as possible, in that country. And when people hear about all these expansion plans from Tesla, now it's 2023, they're kind of looking at current quarter and production and what's happening. They don't realize that these things are really being set up for 2025, whether it's setting up India, whether it's the expansion in Berlin, whether it's Mexico. And, Tesla has, believes that they're probably going to, more than double, if not triple, their output during this time period. And so it's really exciting to see this. I think this is really being set up for 2025 production. And I think, if things go well, again, the two highest principles met, Elon and the president of India. Usually new, bigger issues aren't introduced after the two principals meet. Usually now it's just about like, how do we get the close? So looking forward to next steps on this. Exciting.
Yeah, I would just want to like back up and look at the overall picture. Why is it important for Tesla to go into India? And one of it is just the enormity of Tesla's goals, which is one of the things that I'm always looking at. So Tesla trying to get to 20 million vehicles by 2030. You cannot get there, and you can't move even more Master Plan 3. Move the world toward a sustainable energy future and leave the most populous country behind. It's just not going to happen. As beyond the EVs, there's also the opportunity with India, with the grid and the power structure. India's grid needs to be stabilized. So you have the stabilization uses of the MegaPack. There's also a lot of areas where India can just kind of bypass our traditional style grid and move to solar power walls, distributed energy, and move straight into the future and just kind of skip that middle step. So that's an exciting opportunity for me as well. And then just one other point is there's just been a lot of talk about given that their disparity of what an average income is around the world, the middle class in India has a very good lifestyle, but that lifestyle occurs at a lower income level than it would cost you in the United States for the same lifestyle. And Teslas are kind of priced around the United States. So people are rightly looking at that and they're wondering, how big is that market going to be? Well, you got to remember it's the most populous country in the world. So even a small percent of a very large number gets you to the 500K, 1 million production capacity. And it will initially start as a domestic and export model the same way that China did. And that's one of the reasons why India wants Tesla there, is to start building up that export market and the whole EV infrastructure. We've talked before about just the challenges that there will be. This will be a masterclass for those that are watching in Tesla's ability to execute and plan on a very high level, a complex situation with a lot of moving pieces. So, I mean, as the Tesla nerd that I am, I'm really looking forward to following it.
Yeah. Go, Joe.
No, I was just really quick. I was just gonna say that watching Tesla put these chess pieces in like years ago, when there was like hints of a negotiation and people really didn't know what was happening, and they doubted it just like they doubted like that the China lot was being built. Like it was the same thing. And now you're seeing like all this happen like at a later date. And there's so much projection from OEMs that, you know, they're going to have, you know, 20 to 30 to 50,000 vehicles produced in 2025. And it's like, man, Tesla's just not standing still. Like, where is Tesla going to be at in 2025? It's just like mind boggling the leaps and freaking the lead that Tesla has. And like, it just baffles me, because I remember thinking like when the Model X came out in 2016, I was like, there's no way they're going to let like this company just keep running away with this. They see it's working, they see it's selling. And I think even JB Straubel is like quoted as saying when they released all of their patents, they just thought, oh man, we better keep moving because people are going to copy what we're doing. And they just never did. And it's like so many years later, they're just still not catching up. It's wild.
Yeah, I'll put out a video later today. There was there's an influencer out there called I think his name's Carter, and him and I guess Brandon are good friends. You know, Tesla Talk are good friends. But long story short, he's like, why would you have a Tesla convention, right? That, you know, the cars, they all look the same. You know, you've been to the dealership once, you've seen them all essentially. And you know what I post in this video, and it's going back to what you're saying, so I'm not taking this down a rabbit trail, is that Tesla's been around for 20 years. I looked up Toyota. They've been around 85 years. And he was going off like, oh, Toyotas have X, Y, and Z, you know, Tacomas, Honda Pilots, and just, Toyotas, Corollas, Camry, you know, just down the whole list. And I said, they're just in the beginning stages. And I said that this is what our event is about, is to showcase, you know, how you can customize the current stack of what they have, but they're just in the beginning. And I think it's like you said, is Amy was saying that for us, like for Tesla to get where they need to go, India needs to be a part of that. And I looked up, I believe there's about 800,000 millionaires in India as far as the population. I just Googled it. But we also know price, you know, with the Gen 3 platform, price is going to significantly go down. So who knows what models, and they may even regionalize some of the models that they build there. Maybe it does not make sense, but the next compact car, I think might fit that shoe, but you know, we'll see. But I do know, as we've all seen, you know, sometimes price doesn't always matter. Obviously, I can't speak for India specifically, but what we are seeing with the Model Y is it's the best-selling car in the world, and there's absolutely nothing slowing that down. Especially, it's gonna get the crown this year and potentially for the next year or 2 years, and that does not include all of the cars that Tesla has on their product roadmap. So, Jeff, were you gonna say something?
No.
Okay.
Agreed.
I wanted to say I've never liked the argument of, oh, they all look alike, because Honda sells like so many vehicles every year, and so does Toyota. And I see so many Corollas. Like, that's such a crap cop out when people say that. Like, oh, there's so many of them. Like, yeah, look at your neighbor's house. You know what I mean? It's like wild that people say that.
There's always going to be, there's always going to be those people that don't want the thing that everyone has. And that's why there's other OEMs coming out with different models. But I think no one has ever thought of this crazy dream of getting to 20 million cars per year, or more important, like in these past couple decades. Just people aren't thinking about that. So they're not thinking about, like, how do we get into India? How do we get into, you know, these countries that have been potentially more difficult to get into? But no one has been able to scale and be so far ahead as we've all kind of talked about. All right. So the next slide is, Amy, I'll let you kick this one off. This is Tesla Energy ramp in China. So I'll pass you the baton.
As always, if you track the supply deals, we get that early heads up of what's going to happen. So there had been a Reuters article back in May that was kind of looking at quarter to 2024 for production to start on the MegaPack in India. Now we're seeing a supply deal that is for the battery cells. So when you look at the MegaPack, you know that you're going to need battery cells. Not unsurprisingly, it's sounding like the supply deal is going to be with CATL, who has the factory right next to Giga Shanghai. But what is kind of cool and surprising to me is they're talking about the 4680 form factor. So that 4680 cell size that Tesla decided to use, this large cell battery, and then it's going to be an LFP in it, and then assembled into megapacks. So that kind of dovetails into something that Elon Musk said on stage at Investor Day, that Tesla had contracted an overcapacity of cells this year. And the reason for that is Tesla wasn't worried about their ability to use them, because it was really easy to ramp up or to ramp down MegaPack production. And I was like, but how is that really working? Because aren't they different cells? Well, if Tesla in the future moves to using a 4680 LFP, and we haven't actually heard, this is breaking news, a 4680 LFP yet. We've assumed that Tesla would go down that route. If you looked at that chart that we had, where you had the nickel-based batteries and the just lithium-ion for where high performance was required, and the LFP for everything else, you would have assumed there would be a 4680 LFP, but we had no type of actual indication from anyone involved in Tesla or anyone involved in the supply deals. Jeff, can you talk about what it takes to set up a new factory like they're going to be doing in Shanghai? This is, as far, I haven't seen much on the construction itself, but we know that they were able to put Giga Shanghai in place in under a year. We all, I mean, I at least over COVID watched all those hospitals go up and people naming all the little bulldozers and everything else. So, I mean, in China, they have the ability to do construction amazingly quickly, but that almost puts more of a challenge on the supply chain, getting all the industrial machines and everything else set up. So you can talk to us about how that happens?
Yeah, it's a pretty integrated project plan of, you know, construction and capital equipment and people. And you've got to get that symphony all kind of on the same page and on the same, you know, sheet of music. And there's going to be issues, but in general, that's what you're trying to do. And you know, in China, Tesla has a really good relationship with the local government, and that's critical for streamlining any permitting and just the ability to do construction very quickly in China. They've proven that, you know, it's still really the fastest place to get a building up, to get a factory going, and they're very aggressive. They think out of the box. I once walked through a factory once. We were working on glass lenses, and we had to expand so quickly for this product line. And I walked into the factory. I noticed that there was a lot of light coming in my head, and looked up, and the roof wasn't on yet. But they were trying to get the factory line shaken out with no roof on. This is how they, you know, this is how they think. And there's a sense of urgency, so they'll move quickly. There's a lot involved with doing this, but, you know, Tesla has their own in-house construction team. You know, Tom Zhu, people don't realize Tom Zhu, this is his background, is construction of factories. He later became an auto executive, and a very good one, but this is where he started. So a really good person when you're trying to expand an industry globally massively over a decade. He's a great person for Tesla to have.
Awesome. Well, no, thank you both for that insight. I think it's, you know, it's really exciting to see where Tesla is headed on the energy business, which, as in my opinion, is like, I think one of the most the biggest underdogs within the Tesla story right now is their energy business. And we're starting to see more and more deals. You know, I feel like it's probably weekly where I see, you know, Sawyer put something out about a deal that they're doing with, you know, spending hundreds of millions of dollars to get these mega or purchasing these MegaPacks. And the demand for these, as we know, is just, you know, years, and they have a couple years of backlog right now. So pretty incredible. And obviously, as to meet that demand, they need to, as you guys were both talking about, they need to expand their reach with that and their production for that. So we have a MegaPack factory here in the Central California area, and it's, you know, I've been by it, and it's really incredible to see, because I believe they took like an old, I think it was like a JCPenney warehouse or something like that, and they are, you know, doing some incredible things there. But the whole street just feels like it's like a Tesla block, and that's just one thing. It's just like it's just, again, something that not many people are talking about. Like when you think of the actual amount of factories that they have in California, and even close by, when you add in Reno, which is close by, Giga, Nevada and stuff. Amy, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just like about Lathrop. That's a good thing that you brought that up. There is actually a Giga casting machine there. Not many people realize there has been one there for many years. It's a Tesla parts facility is there. A Tesla glass facility is there. They have a lot of other Tesla things there. And just like you dovetail on your point, that like people get so focused on just the production number of the cars that they forget kind of what Jeff's follow-up is all the pieces that have to go into getting that car, the raw materials in and the car out of the factory, and that Tesla is vertically integrated. With Gen 3, they're going to do this even more, producing more of their parts, and this is going to get us to something we're going to talk about in a minute, so I'll stop there. Just on the Tesla energy itself, The reason why we're tracking this is that year over year, it grew 222% for the quarter. And that was 3.7 gigawatt hours deployed. When both Lathrop and Shanghai are in place, they're each going to be 40 megawatt hours per year. So if you can divide that up for the quarter, and Tesla got 1.5 billion in revenue. So you can see this rapidly growing revenue, and this is just going to be the first of many. Given the size of the MegaPack and the fact that it is basically the limit of what you can put on a road, and it's already a big size road. It's shipping everything else. These factories will be localized. You should have one on every continent. So you just look at that enormous growth opportunity. At some point, it's going to be a very significant part of the business. The caveat on this is, while I, as a long-term investor, am very excited about this, and I'm also excited about it because you need it to bring the world to sustainable energy.
Yep.
It is, at this time, still a smaller portion of the revenue compared to auto. And the way that the revenue recognition goes, because it's these milestone payments, it's going to be lumpy quarter to quarter. And that's not going to be, and let's start getting in front of this already, a lack of demand story, because you can already hear Tesla Q is going to be coming out with it. It's just a difference in revenue on the way these construction projects work.
Yeah, I could see that, especially not being an expert in deals, but being having a finance background. I can see how certain contracts will make the revenue recognition very lumpy. But yeah, I think and keep me honest here, I believe that the margins are even better in the energy business. So this will continue to help increase, more and more money coming in, and as they continue to invest in R&D and building out other factories and stuff like that. So, yeah, Jeff, were you gonna say something?
I'm just the margin growth quarter on quarter sequentially was huge. It grew to, I think, 17 or 18% from 11%. So to grow 70%. When the factory is only about 1/3 full, that is pretty telling to me that I'd be interested. I would be surprised if the ceiling on MegaPack margins is 25 to 30%. This will take a year or more to play out, but that movement in gross margin when the factory is that occupied, meaning underutilized, was pretty encouraging to me. Little nugget.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Jeff a question about this in a second. But I also want to say that along with the MegaPack, just like we're talking about with the EVs, the Tesla has been looked at just a products company, and Tesla is in a moment of huge transition to a software and services company as well. That is very underappreciated, in my opinion. When you look at a MegaPack or when you look at a car, in the future, it's going to be a land and expand model, where once you have they have the hardware in place, Tesla is going to have ever increasing opportunities of things to sell them off with that hardware. So the MegaPacks, if you look in the United States, is very determined by regulation, how you would monetize, say, frequency stabilization, because that's the utilities have regulations of what you can charge them and for what. But those laws will change, and they'll be able to monetize more over time. And the profit margins are already very significant and healthy. And Jeff, could you just talk a little bit for people that are not aware of the difference of having a factory toward their designed utilization and what that does to the cost of goods sold?
You talking about Tesla ownership of a factory?
No, like Lathrop, it's not at the 40 megawatt,
Okay.
40 gigawatt hours yet. So what happens to those profit margins as Tesla starts getting a lot closer to 40 gigawatt hours and the economies of operating the factory itself?
Yeah. So yeah, when you have fixed assets and they're underutilized, so what factories target, they tend to target greater than 80% utilization. They look at an annualized calendar, and they're trying to drive that factory to be utilized at least greater than 80%. In the industry, even if you're utilized greater than 70%, that's actually pretty good. Because when you have lumpiness in inbound material, or you've got extended downtime, or you have lumpiness in demand in your order book, that actually weighs on your fixed costs. So when a factory is underutilized and under those thresholds, essentially your fixed costs tend to weigh heavily per unit manufactured and unit shipped than they would if you were able to disperse that over more units and greater utilization. So when you can run at higher rates of utilization, your fixed cost structure, your fixed cost per unit will decline. Your labor cost per unit can decline. So there's a set of factors around fixed costs, around labor, and around capital depreciation that are pretty critical. And so for Lathrop to be running at maybe a third of where they intend to be, yet in improving gross margins like that pretty significantly, to me tells me that the train isn't stopping where it is today. That as they scale that further, that that those gross margins are going to go up fairly significantly. So I think that's the key takeaway. And by the way, the same equation works for superchargers. People are concerned, like, is Tesla giving away supercharger usage? No, what they want to do is they want to drive utilization up, and their fixed costs per charging event will go down, and then it'll actually be more profitable across the entire network. So yeah, it's a pretty important lesson to learn and keep in mind.
Yeah, I think that's what we all know about Tesla is that they don't look at something and they don't say, hey, this is how it's done, so let's do, make things better. They start from scratch. And so in the same way that you're talking about how they've been improving the margin, what I think 70%, which is crazy. But same thing with the supercharging, right? It's one of those things where sure, it's going to be a little bit cost intensive at the beginning. But really what you're looking at is the future gas station, which is a Tesla supercharger, and things are going to be built around it. And so it's pretty crazy to think that, unfortunately, people still don't see that. But at the end of the day, as you said, it's one of those things where whatever the baseline is, they're going to continue to improve it, right? The supercharging team is not only, they're going to continue to focus on like, okay, in the V4, how do we make charging speeds faster, but also too, how do we reduce the crap out of the costs? I remember talking to an ex-employee, and I think it was, they talked about how in the Model 3, when they decided to potentially get rid of, the logo in the back, whether they should make it metal versus plastic. And that is the link. He was able to pretty much save $5 per Model 3 by making it from metal to plastic, right? And I think the Model S and X had already gone that route. But again, there's no stone unturned with all of the stuff that they're working on. And I don't think I've ever seen a company work that ruthlessly to make sure that happened. All right. So then the next topic, I think, Amy, you had talked a little bit about this, but we can potentially end on this. I know if you guys, do all of you have time or like more? Yeah, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll go for maybe another 10 and then we'll kill it. But here it was, a centralized ECU system, Tesla Advantage. And this is actually something Jim Farley spoke a ton about, where it's one of those things where they have all of these parts that make up their car, but they've outsourced everything. So now imagine trying to bring all of these different parts from various companies, written different codes together. And when you look at, Tesla, right, you can see how everything is central, right? Everything is being, you can see it on the bottom right in this graphic. Whereas on the top, you can just see it's like nothing is really connected. They're just connected to just essentially make the car functional. So, Tesla has built a centralized ecosystem that everything talks to the main brain of the computer, really, if you think about it, but it's all connected versus with traditional OEMs, it's the exact opposite because they've outsourced everything. So it's more of like, oh, okay, you press this button up and down. Okay, that's going to make sure that the window goes up and down, but none of this stuff is vertically integrated or centralized like how Tesla has tackled the build on their cars.
Yeah, I think it's evident in things like I have a 2013 Model S, right? And I look at the fact that I'm able to do upgrades, and still to this day, you know, I mean, they push out updates and stuff like that. And it's always apparent to me, like, being vertically integrated makes a world of difference, because they thought of this way back then to have everything centralized and to do everything in house. Whereas you'll hear people say, "Oh, they're not vertically integrated." Well, that upper picture will show you, once you start getting things from different part suppliers and different things off of any shelf, you have so many things to account for. But with Tesla, like, you don't really have to worry about all of that, because everything is just done in the vehicle. And of course, they've, you know, orders of magnitude that over the course of vehicles. And now they don't even, my car has fuses. The new vehicles don't even have fuses in them. So, I mean, they just keep getting better and better, and it keeps going up from there. But that was like, I think I commented on that when that was posted, because that was just so evident to me. Because even the Taycan, somebody had an update that needed to be required, but the supplier had issued the update and not Porsche. So they had to bring the vehicle into the shop to have the update done, because it was a supplier update and not a Porsche actual update. And things like that are just evident to me when it comes to vertical integration.
Yeah, when you see this picture, and this is this transition, Tesla's done a number of simplifications over the year. But if you think about it from a first principles perspective, they're reducing the amount of metal and mass in the phone every time they take all these controls out, and you reduce that. First off, cost structure is coming down, but just think about it from a first principles perspective. Every piece of metal that you have to buy, whether it's a hunk of wire or whether it's the silicon that's part of that controller, everything that you have to buy then has to be converted. There's a conversion of every raw material that you buy or that your suppliers buy. So if you can reduce the amount of mass and the amount of individual part numbers in your device, you're also reducing the conversion. The conversion is basically loss. It's I think Elon's called it kind of the idiot cost, of any piece part that comes in the product, because what you need are the raw materials. The conversion piece of it should be fungible, and over time be taken as close to zero as possible. So if you look at the simplification and what's happening down here, this is really meaningful to thinking about where their cost structures are going to be 2 years from now. And it's also meaningful in terms of just the ability to scale in multiple regions, and to not have, when you have so many part numbers and you have so many different raw material types, you're more prone to shortages. So the more you can simplify, the better you're going to have kind of a higher running, a better oiled machine running in your factory. So this is a big move for Tesla in going to this 48-volt architecture system in Cybertruck and beyond. Is going to be a really big move. Again, as users, I think there are going to be new features that they're going to be able to do that they haven't done before. But it's really, they're going to be able to serve their product at a cost structure that they haven't been able to do before, and that's one of the key takeaways.
Yeah, for me, this second diagram is exceptionally familiar, because this is how the wiring works on a 787 and how our controllers work. So this is what we see with Tesla time and time again is first principles thinking and not being restricted by a box. We see them looking for the best manufacturing techniques and the best design things across multiple industries. So a couple of advantages when you have your system design like this. We know that they plan to build the cars with an unboxed process. So you can't have a traditional wiring harness that lies in throughout the vehicle and be building the different segments at any time. This is also going to allow the 48 volts change is also going to allow power over Ethernet. So Tesla at the moment, one of the first things they plug in the factory is the car's computer. And then as they plug in critical parts after that it is part of their quality assurance process, the computer is verifying that's the right part. So as the whole time the car is going through, it's verifying, and you're going to still be able to do that here in the unboxed process. because of the way that they are distributing out these electronic controllers. And we also know that these controllers have, as Jeff was alluding to, been a major source of bottlenecks in the past. So Tesla bringing in something that was a bottleneck in-house, designing it, reducing the number that they need, is going to be exactly the type of thing that we've seen from Tesla. Best part is no part, reducing parts, optimizing the quality of the product that people receive, the dependability because you have less parts to break. I mean, I'm very excited to see these cars when they're produced.
So Jeff is saying that the Cybertruck is going to be way cheaper 2 years from now. Nice.
Well, I think it's as designed, it's going to be for this architecture, for delivering this functionality distributed through the vehicle. I think it's going to be more inexpensive than the vehicles they're building today. So as soon as they start rolling off the line, I mean, obviously they'll be lower volume, it'll be higher cost in the beginning, but yeah, this is a simplified design. By the way, the other thing I love, Amy brought in the 787 example. The other big thing is just reducing the points of failure. When you reduce complexity, you can reduce the nodes of failure and probability of failure as well, which is another thing they're obviously focused on, and serviceability.
I mean, I will be interested. One of the things that 787 does is we have multiple computers, each which can run pretty much all the critical controllers on them. So you can have many computers fail and still be able to operate the other controllers. I'll be curious how much redundancy they put in. We know they've already built in this redundancy with FSD, where they have more than one FSD controller and they're running one in shadow mode to get data. So like, it's just from my insanely in depth in the weeds perspective. Like I'm really like, I'm excited to be able to research the design decisions that Tesla has made.
Absolutely.
Well, especially as you deal with a completely different industry like planes, it's interesting how there's some similarities and maybe how cars were maybe never thought to be created in that same way. So I have no idea. I don't know if Tesla thought like they somehow got a hold of a 787 and realized that this is how they were built. But
Lars Morovi was an aerospace engineer at one point.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think it's pretty incredible to think of how they're just tackling everything and how they're approaching it. I know we're like 12 minutes over. I know we started a little bit late, but there was one other thing I just wanted to quickly show. There was a couple of other slides that we just didn't have time to get to. Was obviously I don't know if you want to go maybe 30 seconds on this, Amy, or even Jeff. You guys both can take this, but Project Highland, and we can end with this.
I just really quickly, it's nothing official. Tesla hasn't announced anything, but a couple critical pieces. We know that Fremont shut down the production line. They had told us that they were going to shut down the production line for improvements. Now we're seeing paperwork being filed. So this is in the Chinese vehicle registration system, and you can see that there's now a version of the Model 3 and a version of the Model Y dated 7/23. We haven't actually seen it, but there's also reports in the Chinese media, which just seems to always find these things first, of the paper being filed in the United States as well for a new vehicle. And just on the Model Y, Jeff might want to talk about this for one quick thing. My feeling is the Model 3, that's going to be that more extensive update that we call Project Highland. Just to be clear, for those that don't know, Highland is just an internal code word for the project. It's still a Model 3. If you look at the Model Y, once you change the parts over to some new parts on the Model 3, I would imagine, and this is my question for Jeff, that there would be an opportunity to change some of those parts out and share and have a dual source for larger supply chain deals while changing some of the parts out on the Model Y. My absolute hope and dream would be that this would also indicate that maybe the new powertrain with the hairpin motors is coming to both. What do you think about that, Jeff? Or Joe? Or John?
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, anything that they buy inbound or produce themselves, if they can get more volume leverage on it, it's going to be better for them. So it's as long as it's compatible, I can see them wanting to have some sort of merge schedule. I think they'll want to get the Model 3 ramped up, but then quickly get the Model Y cut over if there's common parts that diverge with Highland, that they would want to merge back in the Y. I can see them wanting to do that. It's a great point.
Definitely. Well, thank you both for just breaking that down. But yeah, I know it's been an incredible week with the takeover, coming off the takeover high. And I know, again, we weren't here last week. So thank you all for spending your time, your morning with us this morning, this Friday morning. So we'll be back next week at 8 a.m. on Fridays. But please support all of our followers. If you're watching on YouTube, all of their handles are there. If you're supporting us on X, their handles are there as well. Give them a follow. Ton of expertise and things about the community that they're always sharing. So thank you, Amy, Jeff, and Joe, for just being regular hosts on here. It wouldn't be what it is today without you. And it was awesome just meeting people, just meeting people that are tuning in regularly. And to realize that this is just something that people are looking forward to each week was truly special to see that and witness that at the takeover. So thank you again for the time, and really looking forward to being here next week. See ya, everyone.
See ya. Thanks for getting us together, Jeff.